We had chosen the Hanover Inn for our post-match celebrations before we travelled home on the last train. This Grade 2 listed pub in the heart of historic Harwich was built in the reign of George I over 300 years ago as an inn, eating house and lodging house. The Hanover was owned for more than 50 years during the later 19th century by an ancestor of the producer of this radio show, Bill Lawrance, whose grandfather's grandfather, also called William Lawrance, was landlord there. Here's Bill with the remarkable story of this prominent member of the community of Harwich in the 19th century, mariner, farmer, eating house keeper, and renowned ghost.
My grandfather's grandfather, William Lawrance, was born to a poor agricultural labourer in Aspel in Suffolk in 1834. However, by the age of 25, he had moved to the small but thriving northeast Essex port of Harwich, where he quickly built up an empire of small businesses that would make him one of the most prosperous, influential and dominant businessmen in Harwich, before losing everything in mysterious circumstances before the outbreak of the First World War nearly 60 years later. William began his business career buying the Hanover Inn at 65 Church Street after his marriage to local girl Laura at Harwich's St Nicholas's Church in 1858. They were to have 13 children, 4 of whom died as infants. His key friendships with influential businessmen and the local customs and excise officers based at the nearby promenade ensured that he was able to increase his businesses to include a shop in Albemarle Street that sold superior sausages, a large milk round, the biggest dairy herd in the town, and the nearby Waterworks Hall Hotel in Dovercourt, at which he installed his wife and children. With its 4 servants lodging upstairs, the Hanover Inn soon became a regular meeting place for Harwich's political elite, and was reputed to have tunnels leading from its cellars to the nearby seafront, where all sorts of goods could be smuggled and stored. With the cooperation of customs officials assured, William's influence and wealth grew. Although he was an outwardly respectable gentleman, William was not a gentleman. It is known that he would sack instantly any employee who asked for a raise in pay, and he was disliked by his children for his harshness as a father. He would train them to ride horses by strapping them first to a pig. His eldest son James, my great-great-uncle, left Harwich and his domineering father and travelled to the Kimberley goldfields in the outback of South Australia, where his own fortune was lost in a venture that was described by James himself in a letter to the family as a complete fraud. Meanwhile, William's business interests in Harwich continued to grow, and by the 1880s he was hiring out bathing rooms, and by the turn of the century he owned one of the world's first camera obscuras that allowed holiday makers to be photographed in a panoramic fashion along the beach. However, not everything went well for William. In 1888, a fire began in a cowshed at the back of the Hanover Inn, and it spread quickly. Fire engines dispatched from the nearby redoubt were unable to find sufficient water pressure, and furniture, including what was described as a fine piano, was utterly destroyed by the blaze, which also gutted a nearby slaughterhouse. As much of his prime business lay in ashes, William had not insured most of what was destroyed. 6 years later, in 1894, William was to suffer great personal injury. At the age of 60, he was walking with his wife across Tower Hill Meadow. His own cows and his prized black bull were grazing there. He went to stroke the bull, which angrily tossed him twice and gored him badly in his face and lower part of his body. The horn of the beast entered William's mouth, passed upwards inside his skull, and pushed out one of his eyes. He was rushed to the nearby Three Cups Hotel, and then, accompanied by 4 local doctors, who knew a wealthy patient when they saw one, he was driven in his own carriage to Ipswich Hospital. Treatment was successful, and although badly disfigured, he was to live another 30 years. But just a few years after this, in 1900, after 45 years as a successful businessman in Harwich, William was to lose much of his wealth, status and prestige, when he was found guilty of libel and fined £17,000, more than £2 million in today's money. Whose reputation he damaged and what he wrote, we do not know, despite a lot of investigations. We can assume that for such a huge sum to be levied against him, he upset someone very important and powerful, and the whole business was kept out of the local newspaper and remains hidden and secret to this day. William had to sell most of his businesses to pay this debt, although he kept the Hanover Inn until it was badly damaged by another mysterious fire in 1910. William's children and grandchildren moved to the East End of London to start afresh, living in much poorer circumstances. My grandfather, William's grandson, was not prepared to tell even his own children the details of this mystery, warning 50 years after the libel, "Don't go to Harwich and tell them you're a Lawrance, because you'll get your throat cut." In 1928, when my own father was just 1 month old, William Lawrance died in Harwich, aged 90, leaving just £225 to one daughter and leaving nothing to his remaining other 8 children who survived him. After enduring several fires, a life-changing attack from a bull, and the politics of the town that tried to destroy him, he died choking on a toffee. And if you want to meet him yourself, you can. Over the years, I've spoken to several owners and employees at the Hanover Inn, including the very friendly occupants that are there today. And all have confirmed that in the large back room, still a dining room for customers today, as it has been for the last 300 years, William is often seen just before opening time. And I'm assured that he is a very friendly ghost.